welcome back to Silicon Sounds, audio for the rest of us. Today I have the pleasure of putting forward a quick review of the ND Audio Planet. Admittedly, ND Audio was an entity that I'm not really familiar with. Upon a little research and talking to some of my members of the members of the Canadian Audioholics Review Group, I was told that MD Planet has a reputation for producing lower priced IAMs that punch well above their weight. They do produce a number of reasonably priced headphones, or I should say earphones. The Planet at $15 USD for the base model is actually not their cheapest offering. It's definitely not a wallet burner in any way. The Planet sports, as a driver complement, a single dynamic driver. Interestingly, it's beryllium-coated driver, and it is marketed as following the Harmon Curve. Which Harmon Curve? I'm not sure, because in my own listening, I would say that the Planet is definitely not 100% adherent to any Harman tuning I've heard, and diverges it enough away from typical Harman tuning to actually make it interesting. The ND Audio Planet is very easy to drive, being comfortably powered from numerous devices or even cell phones. That being said, if you've listened to any of my reviews or read them, you know I'm a proponent for providing a better source. While that might be so, if woes out there who just want to drive it from a basic cell phone, go right ahead. I myself used the EPZ dongle, the TP35, which I found to be quite clean, nice sounding dongle, and a little bit of cut above your typical bargain basement dongle. And I used this for the majority of my testing. This is a good one. Performance-wise, I can't hate on the Planet. I've seen a lot of comments, both for and against. There was a lot of hype from ND Audio and other influencers coming in when the Planet was to be released, one of the cheapest IEM releases that has a beryllium-coated driver. For whatever it's worth, technology really is meaningless. It's the implementation of the technology. We're talking about the final product, which is the sound. That's the most important. But I can't hate on the Planet. I didn't know what to expect and was pleasantly surprised. The Planet is overall a clean performer that will make many looking in this price range very happy. It does perform, though, better at moderate volume levels, as listening at high levels does expose its weaknesses. We'll talk about that later in the review. It offers a full, thick sound, good note weight combined with commendable soundstage and imaging, even if it's somewhat constricted to within your ears, between your ears, or within your head. There is roll-off noted in the upper treble, but it is managed very well. And depending on the source material, you may not even find that anything is missing. Again, depending on the source material. So let's talk about the fit and finish of the ND Audio Planet. Its looks are always subjective, but it's a nice looking set. They say that it comes in different colors. It's the drivers are housed in what they call a resin material, but looks, feels, and sounds more like a plastic to me. That being said, the material is fairly solid. The domes are covered in this paint job, supposed to look like a planet, but to me they always look like a lizard's eyeballs. So I would have called this the ND Audio Lizard's Eyeballs. I guess that wouldn't be a good name to market it as, but again, it's all depending upon your opinions. Different colors are available. Obviously, I have the blue color. We'll notice the magnets are quite strong on this one. And the looks are, in my opinion, given the price range, the looks are pretty good. I have nothing to complain about. When they're in your ear, I really can't see them. It is what it is. It is of medium size with a moderately protruding nozzle. So fitment is actually quite good. Never had a problem, very comfortable in the ear. Just sits there, doesn't move, quite well done. Of course, tip selection is very important to get a proper seal. Some more than others, but with the Planet, a proper seal is absolutely necessary to enhance, or at least, I should say, to improve the bass quality. Retail packaging, as we've seen before, it's okay, simple box, but at least a little bit of color with the whole Planet motif. Different colors here, red, gray, and all that. So it's pretty nice. Included accessories are sparse. You have a small packet of extra tips, which I didn't even take out, very generic. The tip that I took off is the one exactly like what it comes with. Very generic tips. Nothing really to write home about, but actually these ones that came with it is what I use for testing. They fit quite well. The cable that's included really depends on the trim of Planet. There's different choices for you. I got the 3.5 millimeter cable with the inline mic and of course the controller for a music player. This reminds me of the old KZ cables. There's a link there, of course. And it's quite cheap. It's not a cable I would keep per se, although I did use it for the sake of testing. Now, folks, we're talking about a $15 USD earphone. I'm not going to fault ND Audio for the included accessories. The retail presentation is fine. Nothing really to write home about. But how does this sound? That's the most important thing. My expectations were not high, both in form and function, but the Planet did surprise me in the most important metric, which is function. Let's talk about the sound, bass. The ND Audio Planet offers a full sounding bass that has surprisingly agile, it is surprisingly agile, at lower to moderately high levels. Again, there we go again. It's going to be a repeating thing during this review. While not being the most detailed low end I've heard, it does have a good or pleasing amount of snap and a nice thickness to it. It does go deep and does it well. But there are some other things we have to talk about on bass. In Circumstance, the track Circumstance by Wayman Tisdale, the bass had a nice thickness, not being lean in any way at all. Angel by Massive Attack is another track I use for testing. It has a deep, droning bass line that starts from the beginning all the way through. It was played back with authority on the Planet, but it did lack the absolute texture, detail, retrieval, and tightness that's present in previous IMs that I've heard, recently I should say, which are all many times more expensive than the Planet. One thing though about Angel is that in lesser IEMs, even more expensive ones, the bass track can overwhelm the track itself. The Planet, no, it was never heard to cloud the rest of the frequency range. So the bass, some have reported to be overwhelming in bass. I did not find that. I find that the only time that things would break down in any part of the frequency range was when the Planet was driven hard. At high volume levels, the sound quality changes significantly and not for the better. Things break down, the bass becomes somewhat boomy and then overbearing. But at moderate listening levels or even moderately loud, the Planet bass stays where it's supposed to. It is not the most revealing. It is not the most able to retrieve texture, but it has a nice snap to it and a pleasing sound. As for mid-range, the ND Audio Planet has surprisingly capable mid-range, and that, in my opinion, is the star of the show here. It has a more balanced approach, even if vocals are just slightly recessed. Macro details are the name of the game here. Macro details, not micro details, although micro details are present to some degree just to keep things interesting. The mid-range has a relaxed feel to it, partly due to its what I consider very good management of the air gain, the pinna gain area, where it's kept under control. You never feel that it's shouty. unless, of course, pushed hard. At low to moderately loud levels, the Planet does sound very clean, very clear. I listened to Anita Baker, her Rapture album. Her voice was always ever clear, present. Tracy Thorn's vocals on Protection by Massive Attack, clear, beautifully done, actually. It does vastly better in terms of vocals and mid-range overall than the vast majority, again, of other IEMs in this price range. I listened to Beautiful Lie. This is a track by Vic Lavender. Extremely busy track, tons of percussion at the beginning, and on most IEMs, I have to admit, it's not the most pleasing. Many lesser IEMs will gel the whole track into just a wall of sound. The Planet, though, surprised me. The layering and separation was actually quite good. I could hear each percussive instrument separately, distinctly. Again, timbral accuracy is just okay on the Planet, but far better than many in its price range and even slightly above. That being said, I did and was able to discern the different percussion, the instrumentation, the sounds. It was quite, it was a sit up and listen moment. No, it is not as detailed. It's not pulling all the different, the deepest level of reverberation from each cymbal strike and strike of the skins of the drums, but it keeps things in their place. At this price, that is a major accomplishment. With respect to transients and dynamics, the Planet also made a good showing with sharp attack and fall off that just a little south of natural, but quite pleasing and not distracting in any way. This was heard on Inside Stuff by Wayman Tisdale. The beginning of the track has lots of heavy hits, twanging of a bass guitar, snare drum, kick drums, and it did very well, especially with the transit attacks and the relaying of dynamics. Sounded pretty good, actually. The ND Audio Planet's mid-range is arguably the star of the show. At less than $20, in fact, starting at $15 USD, ND Audio have achieved a mid-range that punches well above its asking price. The main caveat here, and it's for the Sonics as a whole, is that the sound quality takes a deep and steep nosedive when the volume level gets loud. Keep the volume reasonable, and the ND Audio Planet does make for some good listening in the mid-range. Let's talk about the treble. The treble is safe, yet it is not dark. The treble is only moderately well extended. There is a sharp cutoff in the upper treble, but it's handled very well, to the point where you sometimes don't even realize, depending on the source material. The Planet is not a dark sounding IEM, and there's enough air and sparkle to keep the music from sounding closed in and constrained. This is not a treble rife with micro details once again, mostly macro details, although there are some instances of micro details that you can hear, just to keep things interesting. But the treble is done very cleanly and expressive enough as not to detract from the overall sonic experience with the Planet. This is a treble that should please many listeners, actually, even those who may be treble sensitive. There is little, if any, harshness when it's not pushed over the top, once again, in terms of volume levels, and it does not detract from the overall sonics and adds to the cohesiveness of sound that generally you don't hear in an IEM at this price. Many IEMs in this price want to stand out from the crowd by providing a massive V shape or excessive bass. The Planet doesn't do that. It goes more for a balanced approach. Of course, unless pushed too hard. Let's go to soundstage and imaging. This is not going to be a 3D imaging monster. The ND Audio Planet offers up a soundstage that has moderate size. It's more of an in-your-head type of presentation, which usually would make things sound very constrained and almost like in a cage, but it does not. This is not a negative though, as the music never sounded like it was bound up or tied up. There was still an openness to the sound, probably in no small part due to the decent layering that the planet is able to relay. Listening to Vanston Place 12 a.m. by Ronnie Jordan, one of my tracks I listen to for evaluating sound, I caught myself marveling at times on how good the planet sounded on this track. In particular with how open it sounded even when the soundstage may not have the most expansive dimensions. Imaging within the soundstage was stable, even given the confines of being within your head. So the conclusion here is a little bit more complex. ND Audio have produced an interesting IEM in the planet. While some have lamented the look and feel, in the honest opinion of this reviewer, it's all about the sound. At $15, you would be hard-pressed to find a more well-rounded IEM. The planet provides a pleasant, cohesive sound that does belie its asking price. There is that major caveat again. The sound quality does take a dive when listening at higher sound levels. The planet, the ND Audio planet, is best enjoyed at low to moderately loud levels to really appreciate what $15 can bring to the table these days. Is this a pivotal release that will upset the balance in the IAM space? Is the ND Audio planet a giant killer? Does it compete against earphones 5, 6, 8, 10 times its asking price? Sorry to burst people's bubbles, but I would have to say not really. Although there are going to be a few examples of IAMs that do cost much more, but don't sound any better. As I said before, you would be hard-pressed to find something better in this price range. The planet more than a few times surprised me with its sound quality, and as such, I have to give it a recommendation. If you're looking for an IEM in and around this price range, what ND Audio is asking for the planet, then this IEM should be on your short list. Gets a definite recommendation, particularly at its cost of less than $20 USD. I want to thank you very much for joining me for this video review of the ND Audio planet. More videos to come. Subscribe, tell your friends and family and pets and plants about this YouTube channel. Let's keep growing. Take care, everyone. Until the next video.